Hi guys, today we're going to be looking at the psychosocial aspects of sports coaching. So, the two learning outcomes that we're going to be looking at are comparing the impact of differing cultural and motivational climates on participant behaviour and performance, and critically evaluate a range of psychological tools that may be used by sports coaches for the selection and development of participants. So first of all, what is motivation? It's something that drives us, it pushes us to do something. So for an athlete, they're going to be motivated to be better. For someone in normal life, go to work to get money. According to Cherry 2020, motivation involves the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activate behavior. In everyday usage, the term motivation is frequently used to describe why a person does something. It is the driving force behind human action. So, the first type of motivation. This was the first type of motivation, Motivation 1. It dates back in time where people revolved around survival, finding food, killing animals to live. They wanted to survive. It was the biological drive within us. According to Pink 2009, creatures of nature, we were originally motivated by one thing, survival. That is motivation 1.0. If accomplishing a task helped you to stay alive, you'd find the motivation to do it. The second type of motivation then was the carrot and stick approach. This motivation was to either seek rewards or avoid punishment. As society came along though, we realised that this was more complex, and this type of motivation found its flaws. A lot of people are intrinsically motivated. So, this one unfortunately relies on intrinsic incentives, so if you are intrinsically motivated, this will not affect you at all. According to Pink 2016, Motivation 2.0 is a model born from working class society. It presupposes humans seek pleasure and avoid pain. Good behaviour should be rewarded and bad behaviour should be punished. Motivation 2, in a way, is all about survival. It was also born from necessity. Managers had to find a way to motivate their employees to do a good job. Carrots rewards and sticks punishment were invented to keep employees productive. So in sport, if you did a good job, you get a pass. If you did a bad, run laps on the track or the field. Motivation 3. Now this is the latest development of motivation, and it can be split into 3 parts. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy. This one is focused on self-direction, so taking leadership of your own development. It's the inner drive. It is you motivating yourself personally. We then have mastery, which came along. This is where you want to be better at doing something, so you want to feel a progress from it, You need to be encouraged. You need to be encouraging their tasks. So, if your tasks aren't encouraging you, these people will not be motivated by it at all. Finally, developing autonomy leads to engagement. Purpose. What is the reason you're doing it? You need this. You need motivation. Purpose needs to be installed in an athlete. So if you don't have purpose, they're not going to be motivated. So say you get Premier League teams. They're all battling it out to win the title. Why are they doing what they're doing, basically? Why do they need to be motivated overall? Intrinsic motivation. This is self-motivation. Why they do it? They want to do it to feel good factor. So a lot of people will say they do it for fun and enjoyment. It's something that drives them intrinsically to want to do it. Also skill improvement, a big one. Athletes and people in their everyday life, they want to improve their skills, so that's what motivates them. There are 3 parts of intrinsic motivation. Accomplishment, so obviously increase their skill level. They want to accomplish something overall. They're also curious about their performance and want to understand more on it, so knowledge of the sport and the skill. Stimulation, overall they just want an adrenaline rush. It's something that rushes them, it gives them a high, really. According to Longhurst 2019, intrinsic motivation is the act of doing something without any obvious external rewards. You do it because it's enjoyable and interesting, rather than being an outside incentive or pressure to do it, such as a reward or a deadline. Extrinsic motivation. This comes in 2 forms. Tangible, which is basically materialistic rewards, and intangible, which is others. Saying it a different way. So your tangible ones are stuff like money, medals, trophies, anything that you can touch really. Your intangible ones are more praise, encouragement, recognition, so others telling you that you are doing a good job will then motivate you. According to Fernandez 2017, intrinsic motivation is reward-driven behavior. It's a type of operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a form of behavior modification that uses rewards or punishments to increase or decrease the likelihood that specific behaviors will recur. The three motivational views. So, we have the trait-centered view, which is driven by personality, and it doesn't take into account the environmental influences on the athlete, so personal attribute that predisposes them to success. We then have the situation-centered view. This is them that they're determined by the situation. So if they're in a competition, their motivation is going to be higher. If they're in training, they struggle to be motivated because they don't feel that it's doing anything for them really. You then get the interaction. This is the interaction between the different players, athletes. You've got your referees, your sidemen, how they all interact. This degree of motivation can achieve and be achieved by self-esteem, their expectations of the game. So if someone's expectation is higher than their own, then they might not do it as well. And the standard of competition. So if it's not that high, it's not that forced. They're not that forced. And then it also gets affected by environmental factors such as the weather. If the weather's not what they're used to playing in, they might not like it. So for instance, in football, a player might prefer to play in the sun. If it rains, they think it's bad luck, and all of a sudden their motivation levels drop. The pitch isn't as good as what it normally is. There's something off about it. Nobody else notices as much, but they notice it, and therefore their motivation levels are low. A big one as well is the ability of the coach to motivate. If that coach cannot motivate that athlete to do it, they will not succeed in the game. What is task mastery or motivation? This is where performing the task or skill is the athlete's goal. It's what they focus on. Their focus is on improving themselves overall. They're intrinsically motivated, not from outside. According to Povale, 2016, mastery goals are aimed at attaining a standard of competence defined by self-improvement or skill development. Individuals who hold mastery goals either seek task-related self-improvement or strive to gain task mastery. What is then performance ego motivation? This is about demonstrating superior performance compared to others. They want to be the best. They compare themselves to others on the same level. So if they feel that someone on the same level is higher than them, they must beat them. They have to beat them. They have to be the best. This then means that they focus more on the winning side than improving the skill overall. Therefore, they're extrinsically motivated. Their achievement of goals is determined by innate ability, equipment, and luck. According to Sport Information Resources Centre 2014, ego-orientated goals are set by the athlete who compare themselves with similarly skilled athletes and base their success on doing better than their opponents. They measure their success by not being the least skilled individual and put more emphasis on winning as opposed to developing skill. We've got a study here looking around the task and ego-oriented goals and how they are overall. So this study was tested to look at the two oriented goals and see if they have different effects on 375 students that they tested on. To test this study, they used questionnaires, the statistical packet, which is a frequency analysis, and independent t-tests. They got from the study then that there was no statistical differences between when looking at the two oriented goals regarding gender. When they then looked into ego-oriented goals, they saw that the females favoured this a lot more than the males. It also showed us that the team sports favoured task-oriented goals, whereas the individual sports favoured ego-oriented goals. So your more football, basketball, they favoured winning, whereas your tennis and your badminton, they favoured wanting to improve the skill. You then get study 2 on ego and task orientation. This study is looking into the effects of task and ego orientation to an athlete's identity and characteristics. This was conducted on a total of 306 people, 156 of them being students and 150 being athletes. To test this theory, they used the TEOSQ, the Task and Ego Orientation in Sport questionnaire, And they also use the AIMS, the Athletic Identity Measurement Scale, as well as the T-test, obviously. The results from this study were then that both types of orientation had effects on the participants' behaviour. It also showed us that people can have high ego orientation and high task orientation in their characteristics. So, if you're a sports person, you might want to focus on winning, but you might also focus on being better at the skill, obviously, that you do. They can have both. Looking at a main limitation that was pointed out during this study is that the geographical area, it could have been widened. They focused on one area and they could have used more school. They could have also used different sports, so they didn't use many sports at all. And they could have looked at the similarities and differences between the athletes and the students. They didn't do much comparison on them at all. We're then looking at the comparison of task goals and ego goals. When it comes to the task goals, the positive of this is during competition, they will feel like they can meet the challenge of the game. So they feel already motivated that they can go in there and win this, no doubt. A negative to that then is if they start losing, their motivation levels may drop because they feel, well, I need to work on this more, I need to do this. They also gain positive connection to qualities such as concentration and sense of control. So when they go into that performance, they are concentrated on one thing, and that is winning. And they also have a sense of control and power over that. In their mind, as soon as they step out there, they've won that already, and that's what they need to go out there and do. Negatives of this, it may lead to injuries if they keep pushing themselves that much that they win, and they're not focusing on themselves as well and the skill. They're going to overdo their muscles, and it may result in injuries from others impacting them. They're not managing their time correctly and focusing on perfecting one thing. So while they're focused on winning, one of their skills might not be as good, and that's why they keep losing. Looking then at ego orientation, a big positive of this is they focus on their skills and compare themselves to others to build. So say you have a tennis player, Andy Murray, he could look at Federer and he sees him not as just a competition but as someone he can learn from. So he watches him, he sees how he does play, and he takes that back and he learns that himself. A negative of this then is they perceive opponents as threatening or less challenging because they've seen them to learn, they've watched them, and then they feel like, oh, I'm as good as you now because I've learnt this skill. There we go. They also can gain feelings of anxiety. So by seeing them a lot and more focusing on the skill and not being in the game situation, when they go to the game situation, it's a whole new thing for them again, and it doesn't always end well. I'm going to end this slide here now because we're going to go on to the second learning outcome.